Their head-turning personnel pick by President-elect Trump.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to be his next Secretary of Health and Human Services.
The renowned vaccine skeptic, the dead bear cub handler, the brain worm survivor. It's serious work, not a goofy reality show.
People like you, Bobby. Don't get too popular, Bobby.
His set of picks are still sending shockwaves across Washington.
I was walking around all day just like looking at my phone being like, don't love that. Don't love that.
Matt Gaetz to serve as Attorney General.
I would describe it as God-tier level trolling.
Mr. Gaetz breaks things, and that is somebody who should not be the Attorney General of the United States.
Marco Rubio is his pick for Secretary of State.
Rubio once called Donald Trump a, quote, con artist who can't be trusted with the nuclear codes.
Pete Hegseth for Defense Secretary, a Fox News host and decorated combat veteran.
He has no managerial experience and no policy experience.
Tulsi Gabbard to be Director of National Intelligence.
Someone who has aligned herself previously with Russia, with Syria.
Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency.
Musk has been in and out of meetings, sitting in on phone calls.
Elon Musk even wanted to join Donald Trump when he visited with President Joe Biden, a role typically carried out by a future First Lady. But she wasn't there.
Elon Musk, Elon. You know, he likes this place. I can't get him out of here. He just likes this place.
Yeah, all of that happened this week. Sit back, get a drink. Let's do this. Good evening once again. I am Stephanie Ruhle, and in just 66 days, Donald Trump will be inaugurated as the 47th president of the United States. And this week, we got a very good look at who he wants to surround himself with. He wants Matt Gaetz to be the Attorney General, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem for Homeland Security, and Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence. All of them with two things in common: loyalty to Trump, and they are regulars on Fox News. Voters are looking for change, and they are sure getting it. With that, let's bring in our nightcap. NBC News correspondent and my dear friend Stephanie Gosk. Tom Rogers, MSNBC and CNBC founder. He's now editor-at-large for Newsweek. Mary Harris is here, host and managing editor of What's Next, Slate's daily news podcast. And Max Rose, former Democratic congressman of New York. All right, Steve Bannon told NBC that Trump is going to hit the Justice Department with a blowtorch, and Matt Gaetz is the guy who can do it. You could say the same thing for his other choices. RFK Jr. for HHS. Today, we just learned that Caroline Leavitt is going to be the White House press secretary. A lot of people don't know her. She's been part of the press team for a while. But sort of across the board, what do you think of these picks?
I mean, this is a statement of intent. Like, I've been calling this week shock and awe because I was in Kuwait during the buildup to the Iraq war. That's what this feels like, right? This feels like a statement of here's what we're doing. You listen to Trump's aides. They're saying things like daddy's back. That's what this is. And I think that the thing that's hard is I think hitting us so hard with these picks has a little bit of a numbing effect. It can make you feel like, whoa, I'm overwhelmed. And instead of being overwhelmed, we need to be closely examining who these people are, what their qualifications are or are not, and taking it from there. And frankly, sorting like who's really the danger to democracy here and who maybe isn't, is more like a normie Republican at this point, like Marco Rubio. So, yeah,
Marco Rubio has the qualifications for the job. You might not like his policies, but yeah, he's a normal pick.
Yeah, but here's the thing about that. That's the only thing that surprised me all week was Marco Rubio. Everything else was not a surprise at all. Let's admit it. And I was like, how do they take Marco Rubio? It's a reward for campaigning with Trump, obviously, but why would he give him such an important role? Because Donald Trump doesn't think Secretary of State is an important job.
Oh, my God.
Rex Tillerson
She's
totally right. Right? And then you look at Mike Pompeo. He wasn't a diplomat. He was an ineffective cudgel that went around the world banging leaders on the head who just ignored him. He doesn't care about Secretary of State. He speaks for the government. Donald Trump is going to speak for the government.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, that's what it is. He's like, Secretary of State, what do they do? What's your take on all these?
Well, to all the apologists who said don't take him literally, we learned very early to take him very literally, something that everybody should have known, shouldn't have been surprised at, and if you were surprised at any of this, your judgment is suspect. When it comes to Gates in particular and blowing up the Justice Department, obviously there's an issue of competence, there's an issue of ethics. I think whether the Speaker wants to release the ethics report that has been written on him or not, that's going to be leaked out and we're all going to know it. But I think the biggest issue that Gates has is he's got to convince Republicans that he's not a complete jerk. That's probably more important for him to do than dealing with the competence and ethics issues he's detested on the Republican side, and having to prove to the Republican senators there that he isn't a complete jerk is going to be one hell of a tall order for him.
Max, you've worked with many of these in the lineup, right? Gates, Gabbard, not Kennedy, but what they all have in common is they all sort of have contempt for the job that they have been chosen for, and they all lack experience. If this whole crew goes through, what should Americans expect?
Yeah, I'm nervous how many Trump officials have their cell phone numbers. I know that this is the weirdest thing for me, having served with so many of these folks. But in the end, look, I love the shock and awe statement. He is nominating and elevating people with a focus on communication. Right? This is about personas. This is not a focus on management. And that is in such stark contrast to the way that Biden carried out his appointments. I think it's a fascinating question for Democrats to ask themselves, though, is what is actually the role of these department heads? How should Democrats make their next appointments? Should we continue to do, these folks who are basically bureaucrats that luxuriate getting stuff done behind the scenes? Or should we start thinking about who are our own versions of people that will get up there and be loud fighters, all singing from the same hymn book?
So is what you're saying, if I'm hearing you, Americans said they wanted something different. And is there almost, I don't even want to say a silver lining, but is there something to it that all these people that are chosen for the roles are going to shake it up and say, we're not going to be bureaucrats, we're going to do something different? And a lot of people in the country say, I don't know what any of these people do or these big jobs do. Let's see something else.
Look, we Democrats just got the crap beat out of us, and we have to take a step back and say, what can we learn from this, alongside of obviously doing whatever we can to continue to oppose this movement, which is not just about winning elections. They have seriously reprehensible consequences for the future of this country. But there is no doubt that they just won a resounding victory, and they're not going to shift away. And the American people clearly said, or at least the majority, this is what they want. But that does not mean that the American people concurrently said they don't support Democrats. Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, you saw Democrats win statewide races this time around. So we should not have the conversation. I don't think it's the correct conversation to say, where's the Democratic Party that went awry? It was Harris losing to Trump, and now Trump pressing forward.
And a lot
17 million people not voting who voted last time, and 10 million of those that went for Biden, or 12 million of those went for Biden that didn't go for Harris this time. You add that into the equation, and there's no mandate here for Donald Trump.
But a lot of those Democrats who won really had this keeping it real element. They spent a ton of time on the ground. They didn't speak like bureaucrats. They didn't speak like politicians. And the people in their district knew what they stood for and understood them sort of in plain speak, regular people. Is that part of a lesson here?
Yeah. Listen to people, right? Talk to them and listen to them and respect where they're coming from. I mean, it's a novel idea, but we all need to do that more often. And that often means leaving the listening posts and going out into the country and being ready for someone to change your mind, too. But also being able to look at them and say, how am I not helping this person? And why is this person turning to someone who I think will damage democracy and all the other firebrand things that were said about Trump? Why is this person still voting? Well, I can't pay for the bacon and eggs. I'm still struggling. I can't get a job, and I'm worried about any number of things, and he's talking to me.
But I think it's an important question, though. Why were these Senate races so fundamentally different? And I actually think there was a massive difference between their staffs as well. The cultures were incredibly different.
Educate us.
It just came out that the reason why Vice President Harris didn't go on Joe Rogan's podcast is because she was worried, and her senior leadership was worried about a progressive backlash within her own staff. I guarantee you that that would have not have happened on any of those victorious Senate campaigns. So what we're dealing with right now is two different Democratic parties. You have and the way in which they're staffed. The staffs in the Senate and in Congress are, I believe, folks who understand how to win, understand how to legislate, and represent what the future of the Democratic Party should be. Then you have the people who are staffing the administration as well as presidential campaigns. I believe those people are social climbers that are doing this for a few years before they go to a top-tier law firm, a top-tier bank, a top-tier private equity firm, and they want to have their progressive moment. So losing is not the worst thing that can happen to them. Feeling some sense of that they have offended the social group that they're seeking to be a part of, that they're either a misogynist or a racist or something like that, that they can be tarred with that. That's what they're most afraid of, and that's why Vice President Harris lost.